Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome once again to another Foreman Community Demo, 10th of March 2016. Where does the time go? Ken Gilvin here, your host again, and we're going to have a reasonably short demo this time. We've got three presenters plus myself, so we're going to have quite a lot of time spent on discovery, and then a little bit of information on command line stuff and some Katello stuff as well. But first, I'm going to jump in and tell you a little bit about what's been going on from my view as the community guy. And I've been doing a lot of statistics this last few weeks. I've been doing statistics for three different groups of people, and some of which I can share with you now, and others I'm hoping to get into a blog post a bit later on. So the first thing that's worth talking about, as many of you already know, we did a community survey in February. We left this running for about 3 to 4 weeks. We got a reasonable number of replies, and I have just finished doing the data analysis, and I found some interesting things. I've written up a blog post. It's just being reviewed at the moment. I hope it'll be published either today or tomorrow. But I'll show you the draft of that just now. So it's pretty huge. So I've broken it up into sections with hyperlinks and everything, so you can just look at the bits you're interested in. There's lots of graphs. So we've got a section on diversity, on how well our community is doing in terms of the types of people using it and how they're using it. What operating system you use, things like that. We've got we asked you guys some questions on how we're doing, support, documentation, things like that, how our release structure works well. We asked about features, we asked about specific features, we asked about plugins. Sorry. We asked about events, so I was particularly pleased in this graph. Do you want to help organize events? Quite a few people said yes, so that's awesome. And then this year, we did a survey last year, but for the first time this year we did a contributor survey as well to try and understand how people contribute and how we can help people who don't contribute to start doing so. And I particularly liked this 20% sector here. So 20% of people would like to contribute, but they want to know how to get started. So that's an area of focus for me. So lots of statistics there. That blog post will be out very shortly. So do go and have a read and let us know your thoughts on that. From there, I also have been doing some statistics based on internal data. So ReadMine, GitHub, Apache logs for Yum and Deb, things like that. And I've started to try and pull out some numbers. Now, a lot of these are kind of finger in the air, almost made up kind of numbers, but they're still kind of interesting. So firstly, downloads. Now, you can't really take mirroring out of download stats when you're looking at Apache logs, but still, I thought it was quite interesting that we've had 6,000 downloads in the past 3 weeks for 110, which is quite nice. I'm quite happy with that. But also nearly 200 people already testing out the release candidate for 111, and hopefully I'll talk a little bit more about 111 at the end of the demo. But if you are already testing RC1, thank you very, very much. We rely on the testing that the community does for us to a very large degree. So thank you, and do report any bugs you find with it. Moving on, I took a little bit of a look at GitHub pull requests just to see how busy we are across all of the Foreman and Katello code bases. And it's pretty impressive that we close 4.5 times as many PRs as we opened, which is pretty awesome. Now, obviously, again, I haven't filtered out things like rejected things that were closed because nobody replied to them. This isn't stuff that was actually merged, it was just stuff that was closed. But still, I think it's quite interesting that in just 3 weeks we get through nearly if you put them together, over 500 PRs. That's pretty interesting. Breaking that down a little bit, I sort of sorted them by repo and merged them into a few categories. Just to give you a rough idea of what's included, Foreman Core includes things like SC Linux, Smart Proxy, stuff like that. Anything that's a plugin, so DHCP browser, boot disk setup, default host group, all of that went in there. Installer and modules includes Carfo, all the Puppet modules, the installer itself. CLI is all of the, obviously the Hammer-related repos. I pulled out Discovery separately because it's been really busy, and you're going to hear a lot from Lukash in a few minutes about all the things that have been going on in Discovery in the last few weeks. So I'll let him talk about that. And then just because I know Katello's obviously gets a lot of development time, I thought I'd pull some stats out on that for you as well. So lots of work going on. It's really interesting. I think again, it's you can't read too much into this, but it's just interesting to see the level of activity going through our repositories. And then I thought I'd have a look at ReadMine as well. So very quickly on the ReadMine API, I just pulled out the number of bugs opened and closed in the last 3 weeks by type. And I think the interesting one is the feature category for me. It's like we apparently merged, or at least resolved, maybe we didn't do them, maybe we closed them because we're never going to do this, but we closed 61 feature tickets in the last 3 weeks. That tells me new things are coming all the time, right? So there's lots to be excited about, and as I say, I will talk a bit more about 1.11 at the end of the demo. So we also had a Foreman Bug Day back at the end of February, so just over a week ago. We got together to have a bug squashing day, so I pulled some stats out about that. And the two interesting things that came out of this were that we updated 250 bugs in the space of 12 hours. I'm pretty pleased with that. I think we can do better. I'd like to organize another one of these and get as many people as possible involved. I had to organize it at fairly short notice, so I only had about a week to publicize it, so hopefully in the future I can do a better job of that. But nonetheless, 250 bugs updated, and the really important thing here is that a lot of those bugs were really, really old ones that didn't really need to be open anymore, that were opened against, say, Foreman 1.1 and were no longer valid, but nobody had gone back and checked. So there was a lot of invalid bugs closed, a lot of bugs marked as needs more information, where the information had never actually been provided. Just a good cleanup on our bug tracker. So I'd like to do more of that kind of thing, and hopefully the people who were involved, and thank you to everyone who was involved, hopefully everyone had a good time. Just to go slightly into more detail on that one, I did also create a graph of sorry, I have a cold. I created a graph of bugs by hour for the bug day, and I quite like this graph because around about here, it just kind of tails off, which tells me that I did not publicize this enough to my US colleagues. Because the first sort of 8 hours were great during the Europe time, and then it kind of tails off. I think they were just really busy with stuff, to be fair to them. Nonetheless, it was an interesting day, and I would like to do it again in the future. So there's a variety of things here. There was a question for me, I believe. Lukash was just asking how I measured the repo downloads. Okay, that was purely by parsing the Apache logs. So literally I was taking yum access.log for the last 3 weeks and stripping out anything that wasn't a get, because a lot of things are head requests, stripping out anything that wasn't, and this is specifically for the package Foreman-version no Arch RPM. So none of the plugins, none of the smart proxy, it's just the Foreman package, the one top-level package for the last 3 weeks. So it's pretty rough, it's pretty crude, and it's pretty arbitrary because there'll be mirroring. There'll be people mirroring. They'll be pulling our repos into their pulp lockers, right? So anything that's synced on a regular basis will skew that data. As for the increase, 600 to 5,000, let me just go back to that slide for you. Remember that this is over the last 3 weeks only. So if you go back another 3 weeks, I'd expect to see 1.9 higher, and if you go back again, obviously then we're back around the time 110 was released, so I'd expect 1.9 to be much higher than 110. This is just for the last 3 weeks, and because 110's been out since Christmas, I expect 110 to be much, much higher than 1.9. What's more interesting is that there's anyone still installing 1.9, but again, that could be all mirroring, so it's hard to say. Okay, so I've rambled on enough. A few things about what's upcoming in my corner. So I mentioned I'd like to do a blog post on some of the other metrics I've been looking at. So I've been looking at metrics around commit rates over time, bug open close ratios, so you could call that a form of efficiency if you like. So I have a variety of graphs and things like that, which I want to try and get written up into a blog post. I'd also like eventually, although this is a long-term project, to build a metrics dashboard. So OpenStack has something like that. Yeah, I would really, really like to do a metrics dashboard. I think that would be fantastic, so that anybody can go in and sort of play around with the visualizations and have a look through the data. But that's going to be a long-term project. So I've talked before about an event system. I would very much like to do that. I'd like to get something on the website, a link to a calendar, things you can put into your own calendars. I've mentioned this before, but with conference season out of the way, I'm now starting to focus on this a little bit more. And then there's some upcoming content. So Dimitri has asked me, he wants to do another deep dive on the smart proxy. So that will be in your calendars shortly, I hope. And if anybody would like to do a deep dive, please get in touch. And also, for those watching, if you want a deep dive on a topic, if there's something you want to get involved in but you don't quite understand, come and talk to me, and I will organize a deep dive for you, and we'll get the appropriate developers on, and we'll have a chat. There's also going to be some screencasts. I'm finally scripting and writing the first episodes of the Foreman Beginner's Guide. They will be posted in the next week or two, I hope. And I'm going to use 1.11 with the new UI for those videos. That's it from me. I'm just going to check to see if we've had any questions for me while I've been talking, but other than the one from Lukash, I don't see anything. So I'm gonna hand over. So next up, Lukash is going to give us a ton of information on all the new fun that's been going on in the world of discovery. So over to you, Lukash.
Thank you, Greg. Thanks also for the interesting information. Yeah, so we released Discovery 5.01, which is compatible with 1.11 RC series, and this is an overview of several new features we have. And all of these, I'll be showing 4 new features on the plugin side. And all of these were implemented by others. So the first feature I want to show was coded by Alon. It's a new show page. So if I head over to discovered host page, I'll show Dell PowerEdge system, which has a little bit more facts in my case. As you can see, the discovery show page is a little bit different now. We had previously never-ending continuous page of keys and facts. Now we have 6 sections. We have 5 sections here: storage, hardware, network, software, and miscellaneous. Before you shout, we already know that there's a typo. There are actually 2 typos on this page, so we are tracking that and we'll fix that perhaps this week. Anyway, the way it works now is each discovered host has a list of facts, reported by factor, of course, and there are regular expressions hidden in the code base, which you can redefine in the settings. And for each individual highlights section, we call these sections. You can define your own if you want to override. So storage, there is a regular expression that picks up all the blocks stuff, and hardware is the same. Network is indeed interesting. And then we have a highlight section, which is on the left side, and you can pull, it has the same mechanism, you can pull some information to the left side. By default, we show the most important facts, which are the primary MAC address and stuff like that. And below the highlight section, we have interfaces. These are interfaces that were detected by our fact importing code. So if you do a provisioning of this host, you'll end up with the same list of interfaces on the provisioning host page, the new host or edit host page. So you'll see this one was detected as a primary in provisioning, and here's an IP and MAC address. As I've said, you can modify those regular expressions in settings. So if you go over to discovered, you'll see the discovery facts underscore and name of the section. There's one bug we want to fix in the upcoming version. You need to end-quote this in double quotes, otherwise it won't work. So if you don't provide, if I delete this, and then the regular expression that is built in our code base will do the work. So I'll answer the questions at the end of my presentation, and I'll move on to the next one. And we have a new organization and location selectors in settings. This was contributed by Daniel Bato. So if previously the discovery location organization was a text box, now we have a drop down, so you can select only from the available taxonomy or location organizations. By the way, if you discover a host, the way it works currently is if you don't have a discovery location or organization selected here, then it will try to use the organization location from subnet, which was this discovered host assigned to or discovered in. And if that fails, then there's also a Foreman _ location organization fact. If that fact is reported, then that overrides everything. And if it doesn't, nothing really works, then it falls back, I think, to the first organization and location available. This already is relevant if you have organization support enabled, of course. If you're running a Foreman without organizations, that's fine. Then this is not what you're interested in. Then we have a third feature contributed by Imric. I hope I say it correctly. Imri Zivik, as also known as Imris on the RC, and that's the hostname fact. So previously, if you discovered a host, it was assigned a static prefix, which was a MAC, and then it followed by a MAC address without the colons. Now we have two new options. You can either specify the prefix yourself. You can also completely undefine it, and it works. But there's I need to warn you. We've encountered a lot of problems down the path if your host name starts with number. So that's the reason why we actually do the prefix. It's somewhere, I'm not sure if that's in Core Foreman on Katello plugin, but you can get to troubles. So I highly recommend to keep at least a prefix, or you can specify now a list of, it's called discovery fact. Which one is the correct one? Discovery fact. Discovery fact. Which one is the discovery hostname? Yeah, okay. Discovery hostname by default it's set to discovery bootif, which is the MAC address of the interface it was booted from, the provisioning interface. You can now provide a list of facts, so discovery plugin will try to find one after another until it finds something. So we can separate them with commas. So we can try to BIOS vendor or maybe UUID or something if you have some hardware platforms that represent that shows some UUIDs and stuff like that. You need to remember that the hostname should be or must be actually unique. So if you provide some non-unique fact, that you'll likely get conflicts. Now the fourth feature was contributed by Shlomi Zadok, and that is a nice feature of email reporting of discovered hosts. So if you go over to your accounts and email preferences, you'll see there is a new notification option, discovered summary, if you enable discovered plugin, of course. And then if you run daily or weekly cron job, the rake task, you'll get a nice email in the form of HTML and text. Unfortunately, we broke the core, or it doesn't work with the development version, so I can't show you. It just fails currently. So I'll fix that in a moment. It should work with the stable version though. So that's it, and I will now answer your questions. Do we have any questions? Okay.
We don't have any discovery questions at the moment. We're just to answer a couple of things that have come up while you've been talking. Firstly, I've just been told by Daniel that the blog post I mentioned for the community survey is now live and has been published. So you're welcome to go and read that anytime you like. Secondly, a couple of questions, off-topic questions from Juan. Two things for you, Juan. Firstly, if Google Events is giving you a problem, try the YouTube stream, probably lighter on resources. And for vCloud stuff, we don't really have anyone on the demo today who's able to speak on vCloud, so I'd suggest taking that to the mailing list or IRC and having a discussion there. In the meantime, I don't see any discovery questions. I will just take a look at the IRC channel and see if we've got anything there. Nope. Oh, let's have a look. Yeah, okay. So M. Dobrov on IRC was asking about is it possible? Okay, I think he's already got an answer. He okay, no, he's got two questions. Right, so the first question is it possible to change the node name of a discovered node? So if he says if he tries doing that, Foreman complains that he's already got a server with the same MAC.
Yeah. So basically, discovered host is actually a host, and it needs to have each Foreman host needs to have a unique MAC address that applies also to discovery host. We are right now we are chatting about this. Maybe we'll change and refactor this for the future, but for now, if you try to discover host that is already registered in Foreman as a managed host, or I think unmanaged host as well, or any other host that any other plugin can provide, then it will fail. But you can still, if you don't run into this issue, the same MAC, you can of course discover host, and then you can rename it as you want. You can either name it using the facts I just showed today, or you can, during the provisioning, either via discovery rules or the manual provisioning, you can still edit the host name and it will work. So this is possible.
I think what he's saying is there might be a bug, or he might be hitting a problem, because I think what he's saying is if he goes to provision a discovered host and changes the name there in the discovery form, the provisioning form, then he gets a problem. But I'm sure he'll clarify for us which of us has got the right idea in a moment. In the meantime, he also asks, he's also got a question about emails. He says his never come through. Again, I would suggest that's likely to be either a bug or a configuration problem with your email sending. So I'm sure we can do some debugging with you on the IRC channel to find out what's going on there. Although I will say debugging IRC sending from a Rails app is a really painful experience, having done it. Trying to find out whether it's your send mail not working or it's Rails not sending it in the first place is really awkward. So there's a discussion going on IRC. If there's anything more we need to come to in the demo, then I will bring it back up. In the meantime, let's move forward. We have got Lukash again, who's now going to talk to us about the image side of discovery, because apparently there's been some progress there as well.
Sure, thanks. So it will be quicker. We have several other new features on the image. So the first one, we have a new image 3.1, which is the new version that is compatible with Foreman Discovery plugin 5.0.1. So if you open up our Foreman Discovery 5.0 manual page, you'll see in the release notes in the compatibility metrics that's the image version 3.1 you want to use. You can download it from the nightly. You can download it from the link I've provided in the email. We'll need to wait until Foreman 1.11 is released, and then we'll build the final release because it contains some dependencies from the final stable repo. And the new build is built on CentOS 7.2, so we made some changes for the compatibility. It has several bug fixes that is not worth mentioning, but we have 3 new features. The images itself, it's a little bit smaller. I've created a live CD creator page, and the next version hopefully will be a lot of smaller, maybe 40 megabytes, because the ISO file will remain the same, but the init RAM disk we generate from it contains some Mac OS bootloader and UEFI loaders, which aren't necessary. We are booting over a Pixie Linux, so these files are necessary. So the init RAM disk the size will go down dramatically, about as I've said, 40 megabytes, I think. Then we had a new new feature contributed by someone from our community. I'll find it who it was in a minute. It's root password option. It was this is the FDI root password. Previously you could only provide it as a plain text. Now you can provide it in a encrypted form, so you can use the Unix script and pass it in. You use this only for debugging. So I'll find the name in a minute, and then we have another feature, and that's the last one. That's the LLDP service. So if you now this isn't merged in Foreman image 3.1. It's in the development branch right now. But if you start up a new image, new nightly build, you'll see in the log that the LLDP daemon, the Intel one, is now installed and running. And for each individual network device, we have a UDEV rule that sets up some LLDP parameters. Those parameters, these are built in the image. These are not configurable, but at least we have something. So this was also contributed by community. So I'll now answer your questions, and I'll fund and give credit to the guys who contributed. Thank you very much.
Cool. Wow. Yes, lots of changes in Discovery this time round. I don't see any questions on Q&A or on IRC just now. I can confirm MWrev and I have just been chatting on IRC, and it does sound like what he has is a bug. So I'm sure you guys can talk about that when we're done with the demo. So I will hang around and I will keep an eye out for more Discovery questions. In the meantime, we're going to move forward. So next, we're moving on to some command line updates. So Tomasz is going to talk to us about a couple of things that he's been looking at. So if you're ready, Tomasz, it's all yours.
Yes. Hello. I'm going to show you a few improvements that we made in our CLI. At the beginning of the year, there was quite a lot of stuff done in the proxies UIs. Around proxy observability. Now we are trying to mirror all that stuff to the CLI so that users can see it from the command line. So I'm going to show you that, but first I would like to show you the change in Hammer capsule proxy command. It's now actually an alias proxy. With Katello installed, you see all the subcommands from Katello and vice versa. Capsule, you see the same, so it's really only an alias now. So yep.
Tomasz, don't forget that when you're typing, the Hangouts have a tendency to mute your microphone while you type. So you're coming in and out. I don't think we've lost any of your audio, luckily, but just watch out for that.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, so in the capsule command content, there's a couple of new subcommands. We added a cancel synchronization option for canceling running things, and then info and synchronization status. The info command is actually a mirror of the content tab from the UI. It can be quite long because there's a lot of data to display, and it prints all the lifecycle environments that are synced to the capsule with the content views and statistics about the content that's been synchronized. And when it was published and so on. So it's really the same as in the UI. Then we've got the synchronization status. Which shows us the same as the synchronization panel on the dashboard of the proxy show page. You can see when the proxy was synced for the last time, whether it needs to be synced now. So you can see that this one has some unsynced content in the library environment, whether there are any running sync tasks, and what was the last failure. So in this case, there was some random sync issue. Another one with synchronization running to demonstrate that. So you can see the status is okay, and there's one running sync. So users can copy the task ID and use it for searches, and you also see the progress. So that was it for the capsules. I also have another improvement around host creation API and CLI. We had a very annoying issue with around compute attributes when once set up a compute profile and then wanted to create a host from either API or CLI, you could only either use the compute profile and with all the information from there, or you had to re-specify it all again. So there was no way to merge it. So that's been changed now. I will probably first show you the compute profile I've got here for my libvirt. So it's got one CPU preset and one storage on default, which is copy on write size of 10 gigs. Now I pre-created a command here so that I don't have to write it all again. So it's going to create a host def1 with some host group and using that compute profile, and I'm going to override the compute attribute. And I will also change the volumes, or I can hit it because we probably have some time. Create it. Go back to the UI. Takes some time to load, but finally, what did I change it? Let's see. This is it again. 32. Okay, I'll create it again, and to not lose time, I will change also the volume information at once. So the first volume is going to have different capacity. Gigs and 5 gigs, and yeah, let's fire it, create it, name. So hopefully I can refresh. So yeah, now we can see that all the details such as memory and so on was copied from the compute profile, but CPUs were changed, and also it has now two storages. The information for the first one was merged with the definition from the compute profile, so it's QCOW, and the another one is raw, which is default for the build. So that's it. That's it from my side. Any question regarding those improvements?
Thanks very much, Tomasz. I don't see anything at the moment on IRC or on the Q&A app. I will say that looks fantastic. The compute profile thing has been a real problem for a long time, so it's good to see that fixed. Really, really happy because I use that feature a lot. Right, I drive my own Foreman from the command line, so. And I've had this huge script for Hammer for ages, which specifies absolutely everything, right? Because we couldn't use compute profiles. So that's really, really good. So that just leaves us with our last presenter, Justin, who's going to talk to us a little bit about how we're doing with the. Correct me if I'm wrong, Justin. This is all part of the larger Katello on an existing Foreman thing, right? So this host unification thing is about that, right?
It's not as much about Katello on existing Foreman. It's more about unifying the host and content host objects so that we just have a single object representing a system.
Oh, right, because we list them all in two places. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, my mistake. Okay, well, in any case, let's hear more about that. Justin.
Alrighty, you should be able to see my screen now. So this has actually been in master for a while, but I haven't
Can't
been
see
able
it.
to. What's that?
Can't see it. Only got you.
Let me try again. Is that any better?
Yes, there we go.
Perfect. But I haven't been able to demo it until today. So the major things we've done over the past month or so is to convert the content host UI over to use the actual host API. So previously, even though we had a single object, the UI was using the old systems API in Katello, but now it's actually using the host API, which means the content host page and the host page should now actually be the same list. You're not going to see a subset under content hosts or a subset under hosts. Everything you see here, you'll also see under content hosts. So since we have a single list and we're using the host objects, we can do things like autocomplete with the same attributes. So we can, for example, search for same thing we would do there, such as we want to see all our CentOS machines. The subscription status and errata statuses are now visible here, so we can see all our systems that we know need security updates, which is pretty nice. Bookmarks also are shared between hosts and content host pages, so we have a bookmark here for that search I just performed. Also, when we open a list, it's actually using the host ID and not the old system UUID. That's the actual subscription manager registration UUID, which is a nice change. The pages as well within here are using the host API or a new host-based API that was created for this using the host object. So if we go to this machine, the subscriptions APIs are now using the host, like host/ID/subscription. The host collections are all using hosts and not content hosts. I don't have any here. So there's lots of things here. A lot of the Hammer commands are updated. Like there's now host packages, host errata, host subscriptions. So it's all really based on a single object. And in addition, if you have a host that is not actually registered, when you go to a page that requires like subscriptions, we tell you how to register it with Subscription Manager. Or if you go to packages, actually packages shows you, but errata will tell you, you know, Katello agent is not installed, and to use Katello agent, you need to be registered. So there's different pages here that actually are active or inactive based on the state of that host. And in addition, the bulk actions have also been converted, since they're based on this list. They're actually using a host-based API now. And I believe that is about all I had to show. Were there any questions?
There are. And I'm going to put your cover slide up because I totally forgot to do that at the start. So we have a couple of questions. Is there a plan to retire the term content host? Are we getting rid of that entirely?
There was some small discussion around that. It really only exists because there's two UIs.
Right.
I had considered changing it to like content and subscriptions, but for this initial release, we decided just to keep it as content hosts.
Mm-hmm. But eventually, it's not going to be necessary anymore, right? So
right. Eventually, there hopefully will be a single UI, and at that point, yeah, the term content host would not exist anymore.
Right. Cool. And there were a couple of other questions, but there are variants on a theme about the same thing, about merging and avoiding separations. So I think we pretty much answered all the questions in one go. So that's everything, I think. I don't see any other questions. Lukash has asked me just to give a shout out to the contributors that he mentioned during his segment. He's asked me to say the root password update was coded by Konstantin Orikov, and the LLDP updates were from John Brooker. So many thanks to those contributors. Hello. One more question's popped up. Just going to check it. Juan asked if you can take care of the installation of dependencies like Katello Agent when it's not a content host. I would assume that's part of your Kickstart, right? I mean, Justin, I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me that package installation is something you could do in your Kickstart, right? Yeah,
that's generally, it could be in a Kickstart or a Puppet, Puppet module to make sure it's installed. Mm-hmm. A lot of users make sure it's registered. So you could use it for that as well.
Yeah. Anything to do with package management you can handle in a variety of ways, right? So, cool. In that case, we have a little bit of time left, so I'm going to use it to do a little hype, because I think we all need some more hype in our lives. There's not enough hype in this tech world. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Foreman 111, as has been published on the Foreman Announced mailing list and Twitter and Google+. The first release candidate for Foreman 111 went out a little under 2 weeks ago. The next one I hear on the rumor mill that the RC2 might be out tomorrow. I say might because this is open source and you never get any guarantees. But I did hear a comment, or see a comment on IRC this morning implying that it would be out tomorrow. So if you've not seen anything around what's coming in Foreman 111, allow me to beef you up a little bit and get you all excited. So that's quite a bit. We have got some changes to parameters. Really, I know this is really small font. I'm really just highlighting the fact that you can go and look at this for yourself on the Foreman website if you wish to. And then I'm reading off the page, so you don't have to. So we've got a lot of changes to parameters. The most important one is that editing parameters is now in line. Look how glorious this is here. No more scrolling to the bottom of the page to change a Puppet parameter. This thing is fantastic, and I want to pay a big hats off to Ori and Toma and all the other people who've been involved in parameter updates, because this is beautiful. If you've been using Foreman for a long time and you've been through all the iterations of our parameter support, this is fantastic. So this is cool. There's a lot of changes to the Smart Proxy page, so you can see things like logs from your Smart Proxy now, which is very cool. And you can see your active features. We've got this kind of tab-based thing going on up here. Lots of changes on the Smart Proxy page. So this is very cool. And there's more to come here, I believe. And there's a lot of people who contributed to this. I know Lukasz is involved, Toma again, Dimitri, of course, as the sort of maintainer of the smart proxy, have all been working very hard on this side of things. So this is very, very exciting stuff. This UI is under pretty rapid development. So feedback, if you do want to go and test out the RCs, feedback on this is very welcome. We have got updates to the DHCP provider in the smart proxy. So as many of you know already, the DNS provider in the smart proxy is pluggable now. So you can write a backend for your favorite DNS service. So one of our longtime contributors, Ewoud, wrote a Power DNS implementation for the smart proxy. We now have that support for DHCP as well. So if you want to go and write something for your favorite way of dealing with DHCP, you can do that. So that's going to be quite exciting. And then a few small things, some updates to the bulk actions, so you can change the power state on a large number of VMs, you can change the owner, you can change Puppet Master, that kind of thing. And we have some test buttons for LDAP and email notifications. Now this is super important because until now you basically had to put in your credentials and hope it worked. So now you can test it, which is really good. And the email one is really, really good because, as I mentioned earlier in the demo, in answer to a question, testing email is a real pain. Because you're never entirely sure where the problem is. So being able to at least repeatedly send a test email rather than having to trigger something in Foreman to send an email, it helps. So little things, but quality of life. So a little bit of hype there for you for 1.11. I will hopefully have YouTube, the usual 30-second YouTube clips done for these in the next week or so. So that you can have a little bit of a closer look if you don't have the availability to test out the release candidate for yourself. If you do, please do. We value your feedback. This is the best time to find bugs and to tell us what's wrong with it or what doesn't work. With that, I think we are basically done. Thanks very, very much to all our presenters today. And as usual, I will be putting up a summary of the demo with links to the various sections that we talked about. If you have any further questions or comments, please do join the conversation on the mailing lists or on IRC. And we will see you next time. Thanks and take care.